The Biden administration officially facing a legal challenge over vaccine mandates. Arizona on Tuesday becoming the first state in the nation to file a lawsuit in federal court. The news comes as recent polls show the public may be losing faith in the administration's ability to handle the pandemic. Arizona Republican Attorney General Mark Brnovich joins us now. The basis for this case, Attorney General Brnovich, is an equal protection argument. You say that under the Equal Protection Clause, the vaccine mandate is null and void because it does not require that migrants who are coming across the border illegally, and we saw 208,000 of them come across the border with the new numbers in August, make the case for us that because it doesn't apply to migrants, that the whole thing needs to be voided.
Well, thank you for having me on, John. And it's quite frankly as simple as this. I don't think we can have any sort of serious discussion on COVID that doesn't begin with talking about what's going on our border. I think it demonstrates the hypocrisy of the Biden administration, where they're completely ignoring that problem, which we know has a great effect on us. And then literally what they've done is they've said if you're a non-citizen, you have the option whether to take the vaccine or not. But if you're a U.S. citizen, you're going to be required to take the vaccine. And so that clearly violates the Equal Protection Clause. But secondly, I think it's just really important to emphasize, John, is that if you read our lawsuit, we also make the case that the president himself does not have any power anywhere in the Constitution, especially when you consider the 9th and 10th Amendments, to mandate anybody anywhere should get the vaccine. So from Jump Street, our position is that this is an unconstitutional exercise of police powers the president doesn't have. And furthermore, even if he could, he's doing it in such a way that's completely contrary to the Constitution, where he gives people that are here illegally a pass, an option whether to take it, but then he's forcing U.S. citizens to get the vaccine, which I just think shows the complete hypocrisy and contradictions within the Biden administration.
On that particular point, paragraph 12 of the lawsuit, you remind the courts, quote, under our Constitution, the president is not a king who can exercise this sort of unbridled power unilaterally, and even George III wouldn't have dreamed that he could enact such sweeping policies by royal decree alone. You claim in the lawsuit that the vaccine mandate is just one of a greater series of constitutionally inappropriate actions.
John, there's a case literally right now in the Fifth Circuit where the Fifth Circuit enjoined and stopped the Biden administration from halting deportations. This is one of the lawsuits I have, and also with Texas, where we've said that the federal law says they have to deport people that have deportation orders. They weren't doing it. There is a series of lawless actions. There's this attempt to concentrate power, and whether it's nationalizing our elections, whether it's these massive tax bills that are boondoggles for, left-wing green energy causes, we've seen this attempt to consolidate power in D.C. And I would submit to you, and what we talk about is the fact the federal government doesn't have this power. You have these enablers in Congress allowing Biden to do it, and it's clearly contradictory to the Constitution, and it's something I think that's unprecedented. We haven't seen. Think about this, John, this notion that the federal government, the president, one person can order you to inject something in your body. And regardless of what you think about the vaccine is good or bad or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's that principle that the federal government, one man, one person, cannot take control over your body and tell you what you have to put inside of it. So these are really fundamental principles that we're fighting for right now. And I hope folks see that. I worry about the politicization of all this issue with the Biden administration, but I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep fighting, John.
So now that this is before the courts, the federal courts at least, it is going to be up to the third branch of government to make a determination whether or not this is constitutionally sound or not. Wall Street Journal editorial board member Holman Jenkins wrote about this coincidentally yesterday, saying the good news about the Joe Biden vaccine mandates is that lawyers and judges will now have both incentive and duty to supply clear thinking about COVID, which has been lacking. Remember, the question before the courts is not whether vaccines are good or bad, but whether the government has sufficient authority and grounds to overrule personal choice in whether to take them. And I think, too, Attorney General Brnovich, if you look at the bigger picture here, the trend line for Joe Biden on COVID is going in the wrong direction. This new Quinnipiac poll, take a look at this. 48% of respondents approve of the way that the president is handling coronavirus now, compared to 49% who disapprove. Well within the margin of error, but again, the trend line going in the wrong direction. Your thoughts?
Well, John, look, I'm a public school kid. I didn't go to an Ivy League school, but I understand the importance, because my family fled communism, of making sure we have a system of a rule of law and a government, especially a president, that respects the Constitution. And this is one of those issues that if you allow the Biden administration to get away with this, it is an unfettered amount of power in the hands of any one person, any one administration. So I hope the ACLU, all these other left-wing groups join and understand that this is an incredible invasion, not only of our bodies and our rights to privacy, but it's an overreach by the federal government. And if you allow this precedent to stand, if you allow the president to do this, then what can he not do? It is unfettered power, and the Constitution clearly said that was not his job. And this, you're right about the system and the checks and balances with the judiciary getting involved, but let us not forget that Madison, the people that wrote the Constitution, understood the states were the ultimate checks on the federal government, that they were zealously going to guard the liberty and the rights of their citizen. And that's what we're doing. This should be an issue where there's 50 checks on President Biden, and that's all 50 states.
Well, we will see if the ACLU and others take you up on your invitation to join the lawsuit. Attorney General Brnovich, good to talk to you. Thanks for laying that out for us.
Thank you, John.